Alright, hello. Pretty much today, the only thing I want to be talking about is a few things just regarding Sunnis, Shiites, Wahhabis, and Zionism, and then their relevance and what it means for today's state of world affairs, and also then how they are interconnected. Sunni, Shiite, Wahhabism, these are all just sects of Islam. So I'm gonna explain how that all ties into Islam, and then how it's connected to Zionism and what exactly Zionism is. Now, what differentiates Sunni, Shiite, and Wahhabism in Islam? Just for the main two, Sunni and Shia, the difference between them it's just a belief is of who took over as successor to Prophet Muhammad alayhi wasallam after his death, and some believe that they should have a vote on who should be the successor, and then others believe that it should just remain in the family of the Prophet Muhammad, and it should just go on that way. And that's pretty much the only difference there. For further information on that, you could easily just research that on YouTube or Google and go deeper. I don't really have much time to go too much into detail, but I'll try to cram in as much information into this here as I can. Um, Wahhabism, which has its roots in Saudi Arabia, and it's just a different form or a pure form of Sunni Islam, and basically, it's a puritanical form of Sunni Islam that has its roots in Saudi Arabia, and basically, it's what you see as far as ISIS, when you see Jabhat al-Nusra, when you see Al-Qaeda, when you see groups like these are Wahhabis. These are the Sunni militants that you see. These are not what you would call just your everyday Shias or your everyday Sunni Muslims. That would be walking down the street just to go buy some bread to go home and take to their families. Okay, Wahhabism, the way that their view on Muslim is, if you're not a true Muslim, you're not a real Muslim if you don't have their ideology. If you don't accept their ideology, you are a non-believer. You are an infidel. You are not a true Muslim or a true believer. You can easily be killed by Wahhabi by that, and that's definitely proven when you look at ISIS, because that's the type of ideology that they hold. I want to also clarify something. All Muslims are not terrorists. All Muslims don't think about killing people. That's when I say this. I say this because I see a lot of stereotypes, and I just want to clear that up. When you hear about this, what you hear, people blowing themselves up, people being beheaded and things like this, these are the Wahhabis. These are the ones that our country, United States of America, funds these groups with money and weapons to go and fight and destabilize other countries and use them as proxies. I'm going to get into that later, but that's pretty much what it is. It's not your everyday people, okay? It's different. Now, what is Zionism? Zionism basically is just a belief that for the Jewish people in the region of Palestine, that is supposed to be their homeland. And Zionism basically takes the belief or the history into account of being pushed from the land over a course of 2,000 years, and basically at this moment in time they are going to create a nationalist state that is going to establish a Jewish state, and then also on top of that is going to establish a Jewish state that is going to have regional dominance in the Middle East over all the other Arab states. Now, how they are going to obtain this goal? One, as you see, the disintegration of Arab states in the region, and the disintegration, the destabilization, the weakening of these states is going to allow Israel to become this regional or dominant power in that region. And this is what Zionism is. Now, this is not to say that all Jews are Zionists or that all Zionists are Jews, because we have Zionists here in our country, in America, who are not Jews. And then when you go to the Jewish state, you don't have every Jewish person there believing in actual Zionism. And you have to understand that Zionism also is not Judaism. Judaism, it even states in their holy text that they are to wait for a Messiah to establish the Holy Land, that they aren't to go out and establish the land or state on their own. So, basically, what the person who founded Zionism, Theodor Herzl, did was he took ideas from the religion and formed them into a type of political or nationalist movement to create this state. Now, Israel didn't even exist until the year of 1948. Okay, so everything that you see in the Bible about Israel, there was no Israel. There was a Judea. Okay, and Judaism, the religion, flourished in that region. However, there was no Israel Jewish state. Now, there was a Jewish rule. It wasn't called Israel, but there was a Jewish rule in the area. But that was a couple thousand years ago, or in the course of 2,000 years, since the land had changed hands as far as who controlled it. However, there was no Israel until recently in 1948. Now, what they do is they hide behind the veil of the religion Judaism, and if you were to attack Zionism or say that Israel does not belong or does not should not be recognized as a state, they say that you are racist against Jews, that you're anti-Semitic, and this is not the case. Because you're saying that Zionism and that the Jewish state should not be because of his hypocritical policies does not mean that you're a racist or that you're anti-Semite against the Jewish people. Zionism has something to do with the Jewish people, but it's not in a sense directed at the people. It's directed at the type of movement that was created by people who were not even necessarily Jews. So, what they do also, and I don't know how much time I probably have. I have a couple minutes so I can go further. Now, what the leadership in the Jewish state of Israel actually does, and I want to go into how Sunni, Shia, Wahhabi, and Zionism all go in together, how they destabilize these regions like Libya, Egypt, Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, these countries, Pakistan, is these Wahhabis that they do have. That, like I said, the belief is rooted out of Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, the West, like UK, USA, Israel, Qatar, UAE, all these countries fund these groups or these people, and they make armed groups with money. They give them weapons, basically give them the clearance or the go-ahead to go into these countries or these villages and these areas and destabilize, kill people, obtain control. And when they do this, it allows the army or the political army force of that region or that country to come in and try to fight them off, and it creates a war. Now, since they are Muslims, in our media, Western media, they try to say that this is a civil war in these countries. However, this is not the case. These are proxy wars. Okay, there's proof all out there that the so-called rebels that Saudi Arabia or even our country, United States of America, funds, these rebels are not just random people. These are groups that are even out of the country. They're foreign to the countries that they're fighting in. Okay, and then they are put in these countries to fight for the cause of Saudi Arabia or for the USA. For example, in Libya, they funded them to fight in Libya to oust Muammar Gaddafi, and Muammar Gaddafi was killed. Muammar Gaddafi didn't stand to be a puppet for the West, and that's why he was killed. Same thing with Iraq. Saddam Hussein didn't stand to be a puppet for the West and for the USA, and he was killed. Same thing there. With Syria, President Bashar al-Assad didn't stand to be a puppet for the West either. And what ended up happening was they funded these groups. They called it the Free Syrian Army, and then all of a sudden you have al-Nusra and al-Qaeda, and you have ISIS there, and they're killing civilians. And then they're saying that President Bashar al-Assad is violating international law by killing civilians. If President Bashar al-Assad was killing civilians, civilians wouldn't be running to the government side for protection against these militants like ISIS and al-Nusra and al-Qaeda. Okay, that's what's going on there. And Israel, the West, all the allies of that region are using these groups. They're funding them to fight, to oust these governments, to take over these territories on behalf of the West in Israel and Saudi and Turkey, etc. So that way we don't have American troops or Saudi troops or Israeli troops or Turkish troops on the ground for anyone to say that we're in a war with them, but for them to say that this is a civil war and it has nothing to do with us. But when you look deeper and you get all the information, you see exactly what's going on there. So basically that is how it's all tying in together there with Zionism, Sunni, Shiite, and Wahhabi. Okay, Iran is Shia, Yemen is Shia, Lebanon is Shia, but Saudi Arabia is Sunni, Iraq is Shia, and basically right now they're trying to turn it into a sectarian type of war. All Muslims are together and they're brothers, and all Muslims do get along. But when they tried to throw this sectarian violence type of war in there where Shias against Sunni, it causes confusion. They say it's a civil war, things like that. There are victims who are civilians who don't clearly understand, who fall victim to this plot. But the broader scheme, or when you look at the whole plot and what the West and Israel is trying to do in the region, you understand that it is not about Sunni and Shiite. It's about the actual regions that they're trying to control, and they're using what they call Sunnis, who are the Wahhabis, like I said, is a pure form of Sunni Islam, to fight against Shiite controlled governments. And what ends up happening is they say civil war, Shiite and Sunni war, but it's not the case. It's actually Israeli-backed proxies, or USA-backed proxies, against that government in that region. Now, I could go deeper, but I don't have much time. I just want to leave with that. I'll be back with more videos about other things in the Middle East and how it all ties to current affairs.